This is the third year that China set a big pavilion in the COP. Uh, this this year, from today on, we will organize 17 side events in the China Pavilion, and this China Pavilion in the COP, I think it serves as a window to the international community to see what China has done in terms of addressing climate change, our policy, our actions, our efforts, and achievement. And I think it's also a very good opportunities for the international people to come to exchange views to how to promote international negotiations, including how to reach a fair and effective agreement in 2015 to uh, continue to implement the convention, and also uh, it's a good opportunities understanding China's actions. For example, this time uh, we organized several important side events and try to show uh, international people about China's progress on low carbon development. We have developed our pilots in more than 30 provinces and cities and try to pursue the low carbon development way in different regions, different cities, different provinces. And uh, carbon market is also some also something that may draw the people's attention, because China has already got a big progress on carbon market. We launched the 7 pilots. Uh, this year, the first pilot has already been operational, and some of them may be open, may be operationalized before the end of this year. And during this kind of sign events, some international people, experts, will be invited to join us to discuss how to have a good to promote the carbon market in China in a appropriate way, and also to have a bigger picture about how the global market and regional market will go forward. And another important side event which Mr. Xie will attend is our side event on South-South cooperation. China has already made great efforts to help other developing countries through the South-South cooperation channel, and uh, we are going to provide more than provide about 200 million RMB to least developing countries, small island developing countries, and African countries, to help them to build up their capacity on climate change. And I think in this event, some head of delegations from those countries will also join, and they will discuss with us in the future how we can enhance this kind of cooperation and make this kind of help more effective. And we will continue to make our efforts to help other developing countries. And we also have some side events about adaptation. You may also know that in this conference, people pay strong attention to adaptation, especially when we heard that when we see that Haiyan, the typhoon Haiyan, bring a lot of damage, including the people's loss of people to Philippines, Vietnam, including China. And adaptation and loss and damage is very important topics, and we also like to address this kind of issues. And this kind of issues are very, I think this kind of discussion will be helpful and can have some input to those negotiators to, can give them some help.
You mentioned Typhoon Haiyan, and China's had its own fair share of natural disasters. From your perspective, do you feel this adds a sense of urgency to this whole process when you see events like that take place, and you obviously see the reports of cities like Shanghai being at risk from flooding?
In fact, we have a deep concern about the negative impact of climate change, like like other developed countries, including small island countries, least developed countries, and African countries. If you look at China, we have a very, very long coastal line, and we are very concerned about sea level rising, and it will have a very big threat to our development. So we think that Typhoon Haiyan remind the world adaptation is urgent thing. And in the last more than 20 years, we talking about the balance between adaptation and mitigation. But in fact, this process pay the majority energy and time on mitigation. And I think it's the right time to pay more attention to adaptation, because adaptation is the urgent thing, is something that is happening. Chinese people, including the people from developed countries, also have this kind of negative impact. Of course, developing countries need support. We need to address how to make the existing adaptation institution arrangement operational in a good way. And also, we think that finance to adaptation is a very important thing. I think a balance doesn't mean 50 to 50, but we do need to increase the financing support to adaptation. We also hope that we can get big progress in terms of adaptation. And some parties has already proposed that in terms of the 2015 agreement, a target on the global adaptation is important, and we support that. We support that. We need a target on mitigation. At the same time, we also need a target or goal for adaptation, and we need to address adaptation in an urgent way.
A big question lots of people are asking is when these targets are going to be announced. From your perspective, when do you think might be reasonable for us to find out about the finance targets, finance pledges, mitigation pledges from countries around the world? Because I guess time ahead of that 2015 deal is running out. So when, from your perspective, would it be reasonable to find out about those targets?
I think all these targets are linked. We have a political goal to limit the temperature rising under 2 degrees, and we need to make efforts on mitigation, and we also need to make efforts on adaptation. At the same time, we need strong finance and technology support in order that we can achieve the goal for the mitigation and adaptation. And I think for us, I think it's important in terms of the mitigation. I think it is important that developed countries can take a lead, and we need to prepare to 2014 revisit to the level of ambition of developed countries who joined KP2, and at the same time, for those developed countries who did not join KP or did not join the KP2, they also need to make comparable efforts to raise their level of ambition. And some think tank made a calculation: if developed countries increase their level of ambition up to 40%, comparing with 1990 level by 2020, there will be no gap. So I think that's a big issue that developed countries should raise the mitigation action and show the leadership. At the same time, developing countries has already done a lot, including China and including others. And there is also from some reports show that today, if you look at the 2020 pledge, developing countries contribute for 70% of the mitigation. So, and developing countries would like to make further efforts, but it depends on the financial technology support. We had arrangement of a fast start fund, and developed countries promised to provide 30 billion US dollars, and now 1 year has already passed, and we heard from developed countries that they go beyond that goal. But on the other hand, we also heard from developing countries. They said we didn't have money from Fast Start Fund. Many developing countries told us this story. So there is a big gap there. This is, I think we need to address this issue. One thing is that how much money has already provided, and we need to make sure that this process is fully transparent, and maybe we need to enhance a transparency mechanism to ensure that the money providing and is a process that everyone can easily be informed, very easy to understand. I think that it's very important thing that this is something that can help countries to build up the trust, and think it's very important. And another financial goal is by 2020, each year 100 billion US dollars, and we need to have a clear roadmap to see which year we can have it each year, and from now on to 2020, step by step to raise the level of the finance, then from now on can reach 100 billion US dollars.
One final question. You've mentioned a lot about the work that you've been doing in your pavilion in terms of the next sort of China's next 5-year plan and everything that's in this pavilion document. What would you point to show people around the world who are who know that China has the world's highest emissions in terms of one single country? What can you point to say, look, we might surprise you in the next 5-year plan or in the coming years in terms of China's own ambition, be it in terms of financial pledges or mitigation pledges?
I think in 2009 we declare our actions that's to reduce our carbon intensity on GDP by 40 to 45% by 2020 on the level of 2005. It's a quite ambitious target, and we have made a great efforts to achieve the target, and we will continue to make great efforts to achieve that. In fact, from 2006 to 2012, China has reduced the CO2 emission by 1.8 billion tons. I think it's a big contribution to global efforts to address climate change. And we will continue to enhance our carbon intensity target in the next. We will make every effort to achieve our carbon intensity target within the 12 5-year plan period. And we are also thinking about how we can enhance our efforts to control the CO2 emission in the next 5-year plan period. The first thing is that we will fulfill our 40 to 45% target, and we'll try great effort. Hopefully, we will not stop on 40. So we will make efforts to try to reach the higher end. And at the same time, in terms of the administration system to deal with the CO2 CO2 emission, we are thinking about maybe it's the time to think about carbon intensity target as well as the total volume control.